When it comes to delivering customer support, there are some things you don't want teams to hear. Intercom's streamlined support platform clears up space for more organized workflows and peace of mind. Our business messenger uses chatbots, shared inboxes, apps, and more. Who doesn't like the sound of that? Intercom. Less of this. And more of this. To learn more, go to intercom.com/support.
Welcome to the Crossroads Podcast, a new project by Giorgio Armani. My name is Charlie Teasdale, and I'm the style director at Esquire in London, and I will be your host. In this new podcast, we will interview 13 incredible women in 13 different countries, asking them to share their stories. Stories of success and of overcoming difficulty. Stories about the choices they have made in order to become the women they are. The Crossroads Podcast will be available on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's time to celebrate the greatest team sport known to man, where modern-day gladiators collide, all for the glory of the gridiron. We'll talk some college football on Cougar Sports with Ben Criddle.
Welcome back, Cougar Sports, ESPN 960. This is Cougar Country. I'm Ben Criddle, Brian Logan by my side. It is time for some college football talk in this segment. I love talking college football. I love talking pro football focus as well, getting the grades of this BYU Cougar football team and also the opponents, right? Getting to know the foe as well with ASU on the horizon on a Saturday kickoff. Once again, what is it, 8:15 p.m.? It's a whiteout. You ready for the whiteout? Do you like the whiteout with royal trim, Brian Logan? You like that look?
So only black people can go because of whiteout?
Man, why you got to be this? Why are you always making about this? Whiteout jersey combo, man.
If it was black, I would say that thing.
Every BYU game's a whiteout.
I would have been like, I'm offended because black people can't go. I always make that joke.
We
anyway.
ain't demographically diverse in Provo. You know this.
Yeah, I know.
It's getting better, though.
I was making a joke.
Like, I know. Every time you go to Vassar, you see a new brother. Oh, what's up? What's up?
Look, this is the thing, man. The fact that these players got dreads with gold tips and beards and stuff, I'm like, what in the world?
What am I living?
Tell
me about the swag real quick before we get out to the Fort Thomas phone. The whiteout with royal trim. Do you like the look?
Yeah, I like it, man. I think, to me, the best combo is white helmet, white jersey with royal pants. I like something about that that's just like, it's just sexy. It's clean.
It's
minimal,
sexy.
but it's like, it's sexy.
It's so good.
Man, like if I get married again, I'm having royal pants.
Royal pants
With a white. I don't care what my wife wants to do. She can have
it.
what the colors. But
Man,
I'm wearing royal pants, babe. I'm wearing royal pants.
You're already starting off wrong, man. Happy wife, happy life.
Nah.
Let's talk some college football in this segment. Always brought to you by our good friends at Larry H. Miller Chevrolet, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. If you want to get a parking pass at our tailgate, you want some free meals, you want some free gear, you want some free stuff, then you got to go into LHM Chevy in Provo, 2125 North University Parkway, just 2 blocks west of LaVell Stadium, and test drive a vehicle. We're going to give you a tailgate pass and a free parking pass. That's your free parking pass right there next to LaVell Edwards State. But you got to test drive a vehicle. That's all you got to do today, this week, leading up to the BYU ASU game. Let's talk some college football with Pro Football Focus's very own Trevor Sikema to break it all down. Trevor, how you doing, man?
I am doing great. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks for hopping on. Give us kind of the general grades right now as you're looking at the Pro Football Focus grades of this BYU Cougar football team. What do you see? Who's been graded out fairly high per Pro Football Focus?
Yeah, I mean, the top guy in offense is wide receiver Neil Pout. And, I mean, that's probably what you would expect, right? I mean, he's been unbelievable over the last couple of games. He's really come on and been the focal point of that passing offense. And I've had the chance to go back and watch some of his key plays and the things that he's been able to do, and it just feels like he's a threat everywhere. You know, he's their threat deep down the field. He's their threat near the sideline, intermediate. They can get him to the ball in his hands and short, and he can do things with it after the catch. I mean, he's everything for them in the passing game, and I think that his numbers definitely are reflecting that. I'll tell you, though, I like what I see out of Jaren Hall, the quarterback. I mean, he has been a lot of fun, and coming off of an era where you're losing the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft, you think to yourself, all right, it's probably going to take some time, right? It's probably going to be a little bit of a process to get back to that kind of an exciting brand of football. But, man, it just seems like Hall has stepped in and he's playing well. You're already seeing flashes of the arm talent, what he can do with his legs. I mean, okay, so sure, he's not Zach Wilson, but when you really think about it, Zach Wilson wasn't even Zach Wilson before the year that he became Zach Wilson. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, when you look at what Hall's been able to do, especially early on, they're leaning on Algier. They're leaning on the other backs and the offensive weapons that they have there. He's got a great connection with Pau already. And so, man, I think that it's a lot of fun for the offense right now. And after those 2 games, BYU's a fun brand of football. And if you're ever sitting around on a Saturday, whenever they're coming on, I'd tell you to turn them on.
They're definitely an entertaining bunch, and the Holy War did not disappoint. Give me your general takeaways from the Holy War game if you got to watch some of it, or even the highlights.
Yeah, no, it certainly dictated by turnovers early on, and they were able to kind of capitalize that and really make the most of it. I like Isaiah Heron, man. I really think that he's a really nice defensive back player for them, really over the first couple of games. I didn't have the chance to watch every snap, but he just seemed like he was all over the field. Like he was really making his presence known. He gets in on the turnovers early on for Utah, and I really like him from the defensive side of what I've seen over the first couple of weeks. And then, I just think that this offense is good enough to compete with a lot of really good teams in the country. And I think that we saw that against Utah, and we saw that even to open up the year against Arizona. And I think that it's going to continue. They've got another fun matchup this week against Arizona State. And, I really believe that with Jaden Daniels and Jaren Hall going up against each other, this is going to be a fun matchup. This is going to be something that people are going to want to tune in on to watch these really exciting playmaker quarterbacks and who can do a lot of damage, not just with their arms, but with their legs. I think everybody knows that Jaden Daniels, he's going to get him and get his yards on the ground, and I think that that's definitely something that BYU's got to look out for. But, when I'm looking at Pro Football Focus's grades here on these players early on in the season, that front 7 is really where they're strongest. And you got to think that holding the line of scrimmage, that's going to be the big telling tale of how successful I think they're going to be in containing Jaden Daniels, because I think that the blueprint for him is the same for every team. You want him to beat you with his arm, right? You want to limit what he can do with his legs, and I think BYU's got the formula to be able to do that. Now, I saw the grades of the guys on the defensive line. I went back and I specifically watched a bunch of that Utah game, and there were moments where, yes, they had a lot of flash plays, but I felt like they still really needed to come together, be stout as a unit. Maybe this week is the week they're able to do that, because they've got the grades here in our system to do it. But if you could put a start-to-finish performance out there along the defensive line, I really do think that the advantage is in their favor, especially when you look at what they're bringing on the opposite side of the ball and how many points they can score themselves.
Trevor Sakema here on ESPN 960. Make sure you're following him at Tampa Bay Trey. He represents Pro Football Focus, breaking down BYU grades and also ASU grades, and get to know this Cougar football team from Pro Football Focus's standpoint. You mentioned Jaren Hall. Unique athlete for certain. I think his ability to run was it may have been the most important element of this BYU-Utah rivalry game. In critical situations, he picked up first downs. He got chunk yardage plays with his legs. How important is it to be a dual threat? Or let me take a step back. How important is it to have a dual threat quarterback at the collegiate level in order to win games this day and age?
Well, it's extremely important. And that's where everybody's going. But I think that everybody would tell you that when you see what a quarterback does with their legs, you would talk about the ceiling, right? You would talk about the big plays, the ability to pick up, 20, 25 yards on the ground with a quarterback. But when I see a running back, or when I see a running quarterback, what I think of is a high floor, less than a high ceiling. Yes, if they give you the high ceiling, that's fantastic. That's what you want. You want more talented players that can convert the biggest plays for you. But what a running quarterback does, those dual threat quarterbacks that you brought up there, is that it allows you to in instances where, let's say, the offensive line misses a key read or misses a slide protection, and a guy's coming in, it's going straight to his face. With guys who aren't normally really mobile by nature, they're taking a sack, right? You're talking about a 3-4 yard loss. You're going back to the drawing board on second, third down, whatever it is. But when you have a mobile quarterback, sometimes you can escape those things. Sometimes it's the escapability to continue to get out of the pocket, keep your eyes deep downfield. That's what brings the value, I think, to really having a running quarterback. It's not just those Madden or NCAA video game type plays where you're picking up these crazy first downs, 15 yards, 20 yards down the field. It's those escapable moments, that mobility that brings you such a high floor because it takes away a lot of the natural negative plays that come with playing quarterback, just playing offense. And so when I've looked at Jaren Hall, that's without a doubt one of the biggest areas that I think is such a boast to his game is not only does he have the arm talent, but he has that escapability. He has that ability to turn those negative plays even into just 0-yard gains, like just going back and having still a fresh set of downs and not being 2nd and 15, but it's still 2nd and 10, whatever it is, things like that. That's what I always look forward to when I'm talking about a dual threat quarterback.
It's a great breakdown discussing Jared Hall, this BYU Cougar football team. You mentioned Neil Powell. He's graded out high. Who else has been pivotal for the Cougars and received a high grade from Pro Football Focus on the BYU Cougar football team?
Yeah, I'll tell you, they've got 2 offensive linemen, Blake Freeland and James Empe, who are pretty dang high for BYU's roster. I mean, they're near the top of the list. Both of those guys have top 5 grades for the team overall, and that's what you love to see, right? Especially when you have not just a mobile quarterback behind you, because anytime the quarterback's on the move behind you, it makes the job somewhat a little bit more difficult for the offensive lineman because they never know where he is, right? You never know which angle that you have to block the guy in front of you. So that makes it a little bit difficult, but also, that escapability there, his ability to get to the outside of the tackles and all that. And so with some uncertainty and some new uncertainty at that, with Hall being a new quarterback, it's great to see those 2 guys, a tackle and a center, up high on the rankings when it comes to the grades. That's what you really love because that's not often the case early on in the season. You can win your individual matchups, but as you guys know, offensive line play, it's a chemistry thing. And if you don't have that chemistry, normally somebody on the offensive line ain't looking too good. Somebody's not getting some big returns on good grades when it comes to our system. But to see that trend already there, I think that it is a really good sign moving forward. Tyler Algier, I'll just say this. He's a little bit lower in our grades right now, but I ain't worried at all, man. I mean, Tyler Algier, I think, is such a talented running back. I think he's so fantastic, and that's one of those instances where, you got to trust the talent that you see on tape and know that the grades are going to bounce back a little bit. That's why the system kind of is what it is, and you get to see a full year scope of it. But I think that he's certainly in for a major bounce back in his grades, and I got full faith that that's going to be the case for him.
Yeah, I like that take from the perspective of Tyler Algier. I know he was highly graded last year. He's had a few more difficult opponents maybe on those defensive fronts, but I think he's going to have a breakout season this year. Lots of football still yet to be played. Let's transition to the defensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, Pro Football Focus, is there anyone standing out over there?
Yeah, actually, BYU has one guy that I noted right away because of his run defense grade, and that is number 55, Lorenzo Fautia. I believe that's how you say his name. I hope that's how you say his name. I'm not butchering it too much, but
you got it.
He has an 88.7 run defense grade so far through 2 games, which is darn near elite. And I went back and I watched some of his key plays that we have highlighted on here that earned him in that grade, and, man, he ain't getting moved. I mean, this dude is strong on the defensive line. And so I think that he gives a little bit of explosiveness, too. I think that he's still figuring out pass rushing. Certainly the pass rush grade is not nearly as high as the run defense grade is. But when you have a high run defense grade and just a baseline, even outside of our system, when you can really defend the ball, when the coach can count on you, that's when you get on the field more. That's when you get trusted, and that's the time when you can really hone in what you could do in the passing game. And so he's the guy that I absolutely liked. And then the other guy I already mentioned him, defensive back number 11, Isaiah Aaron. I mean, like he was, like I said, he was all over the place. He was very much impressing me. And as I see a lot of higher grades for the linebackers and the defensive linemen on BYU in general, that guy really stood out to me. And so when I went to watch the tape, I said to myself after looking at the grades, oh, man, am I going to be worried about the secondary? Like, is this secondary going to be something that holds me back from liking this BYU defense? And, you know, there are a couple of players that still need to improve, but Aaron, man, he's been fantastic. And I think that he's been all over the field. He's a guy that gives me a lot of faith that the secondary can still go out and make some plays, get some turnovers, really help that offense out as well.
Yeah, that's a fantastic breakdown on the defensive efforts. Tampa Bay Trey here on ESPN 960. Trevor Sakema of Pro Football Focus transitioning over to ASU talk. What challenges does ASU pose for the Cougars offensively and defensively by your projections?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that you have to talk about with Arizona State is simply Jaden Daniels. I mean, he is the go-to weapon for them. They're going to use him. Certainly, of course, he's a quarterback in the passing game. He's going to orchestrate everything that's got going on there. But when it comes to rushing yards, I mean, he also leads the team in rushing. He's got 165 rushing yards on the year, 8.7 yards per carry. And so it's all about what Daniels can do on his legs. And I think that that's why I was saying earlier that where this is a matchup of ranked opponents, this is a big matchup here for BYU. I think that there is certainly a formula for them on the defensive side of the ball to dictate things the way they might want because of how strong they are in the front seven. Now, they've got to have guys that can correctly spy what Daniels is doing. You know, you want him to be a little bit below that average of 8.7 yards per carry, or at the very least, you don't want him to break open the explosives. You don't want this guy to make a cut on a linebacker or a defensive lineman that's unblocked, goes up the field, boom, there's a giant 20, 25, 30-yard chunk play. Those are the things that you want to avoid. They've got to be very sound in how they approach their gaps and their discipline when going up against not just a mobile quarterback, but a guy who is always looking for the running ability. I think that Jaden's a little bit different in Jaron Hall in that aspect because Hall is still keeping his eyes downfield. He still wants to make the big play with his arm, and where Jaden does at the beginning, he's a little bit quicker to tuck that thing in and run. So that's the big area of concern right there for Arizona State. That's everything that they bring to the table, and that's what the BYU defense has to really combat, because I think that with as good as Pau is playing as a wide receiver, as much as I think that Algier is going to bounce back, and for as dynamic as I think Hall has the ability to be, I think that BYU can put up enough points to really come away with the victory here. It's just got to be a all-in defensive effort on what Jaden Daniels is doing when the ball is in his hand.
Is ASU a better team than the University of Utah?
I think ASU I will say this, on a Jaden Daniels good day, yes. I think that their ceiling is higher to score more points, to have a more potent offense, and to be a more dangerous college football team than Utah is. But it all depends. You've got to know what kind of Jaden Daniels you're getting, and outside of that, I mean, you've got to see who can dictate him better. Because if you force Jaden Daniels to beat you with his arm, that's a formula you like, just because he hasn't shown it yet. There have been flashes. He's got a decent arm to him, but the consistency just hasn't been there for him, especially when it comes to pushing the ball deep down the field, right? So if you get in a situation where you get a little bit of a lead on Arizona State, maybe a 10-point, 14-point lead, whatever it is, and you force Arizona State to really tell Jaden, hey, we've got to start throwing the ball. We've got to start throwing it a little deeper. Then you get guys like Isaiah, and you get guys on the defensive line to tee off, and maybe you can get some turnovers in that regard. So I would say that the ceiling of offense and ability to score points is, in fact, higher for Arizona State. But it all depends how you play the main man who's playing quarterback for them.
Trevor Sakema, ladies and gentlemen. Trevor, how can we support Pro Football Focus? How can our listeners support what Pro Football Focus does and aims to accomplish, man?
Yeah, head on over to ProFootballFocus.com, PFF.com. If you guys don't have a subscription yet, you can get one. We've got a couple of different subscription models. Obviously, they're tiered in terms of how expensive they are. If you go today, I believe you can still use the promo code KICKOFF30 and get 30% off of the subscription, but you get a lot of what I've talked about here in this conversation. You get the overall grades, you get the snap counts, you get some premium stats if you buy the bigger package. You know, you get everything you could possibly want to know about your team and the opponents that they're playing. That's all over at PFF.com. It's I'm telling you, you cannot get this stuff anywhere else. Go check it out.
Love it. Thanks so much, Trevor. Thanks for hopping on today, brother.
Today, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part? There's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Appreciate it. Anytime, guys.
Trevor Sakema, Pro Football Focus. Any standouts from that particular interview, Bilo?
That Utah sucks.
I'm
just playing. I'm just playing.
Come on.
As far as I was really intrigued with the higher ceiling, right? And when it comes to Arizona State and Utah, and I think it goes back to kind of the question I asked ourselves in the beginning of the show, right? Like, how good is Utah?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we know how good they are? Do we know how good BYU really is? And I think, you know, with what he said as far as Arizona State potentially having that edge, I mean, I think that makes a little bit of sense to what I was thinking initially, which is I really don't trying not my hardest not to take anything away from BYU, but I really think Utah, you know, is a little bit down this year, or at least in that going into that game, right? Okay. And so I think he gave me a little bit of confirmation there.
Okay,
that's a bit.
All right, just a little bit, little bit.
What about you?
I knew that ASU was, in my opinion, if I look at ASU's roster, I look at University of Utah roster, I feel like ASU's roster is slightly more talented. And as he mentioned, it's on the offensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. So the dynamic offensive playmaking ability, the speed, the team speed offensively is nothing is nothing short of great, right? I mean, it's great. It's a great team. Mm-hmm. Herm Edwards and his staff, albeit maybe, I know this isn't a real word, but cheatingly have done some great things down there. There's a lot of controversy surrounding Herm Edwards right now and his staff, right? But they're a good team, and they're well coached. They really are. And I know they're a little bit short-staffed right now, but they'll be ready. They looked really good this last week. So BYU has their hands full defensively, a true challenge for the defense. And I think the offense can still move the football against ASU, but I think you can make an argument that ASU is better than Utah. This is your toughest challenge yet this season. And maybe the best team on the schedule. USC struggled a little bit, right? They lost to Stanford. They just lost their head coach, Clay Helton. They have an interim head coach. So
that's crazy. That's crazy,
you may have your toughest opponent this weekend at LaVell Edwards Stadium. So sell out and be the 12th man. Be loud and proud. Stay loyal, strong, and true. Wear the white.
I think it's the situation.
And blue.
I think it's the situation.
The white
man.
out this week.
You know what I mean? I think what makes the hardest game, the easiest game, whatever the case is, what really allows that to happen is the storylines, you know, that are playing out outside of, like, on the field, you know, production or head-to-head matchups, right?
Yep.
And what I mean by that is I mean, you had a good game against Arizona, but the emotional high that everybody is talking about and still has coming from, you know, the Big 12 invite. Then you have, you know, a win first time in years, right?
Yep.
Like, so with that being said, like, how do you regulate your emotions and come down from that high and, you know, get that edge right back to where it was when you prepare for Arizona, when you prepare for Utah? How can you keep that same preparation, that same, you know, passion, desire, all the things that you did that won you those last 2 games, how do you do that again? Or can you do that again? I think that's what really makes it challenging, right? Is not necessarily the on-the-field matchups. Yeah, that plays a huge part, but more so, everything that goes into it, the stuff that we can't see behind the scenes, right? Are coaches, more relaxed during practice, or everybody like smiling, or is everybody like literally back to work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you heard this in high school from Coach all the time. It'd be week 5 and it'd be like it's 0-0. It's 0. We have 0 wins and 0 losses.
Yeah.
Like, nah, we got 5 wins. But it's just that mindset of trying to get your players to focus. Who cares what you did these last 2 weeks? I don't care what you did yesterday.
Yeah.
Come out today and get better.
I like it. B-Lo, Brian Logan, the philosopher, the pass breakup king, all the things on our show today. We'll go to break. Appreciate Trevor Sakema joining us. Great insight, great knowledge. Robin McCombs coming up next to discuss the BYU Cougar basketball schedule and how BYU to the Big 12, BYU basketball to the Big 12 will impact BYU basketball recruiting. That coming up next. Robbie McCombs, 5:30 here on your Cougar Sports Insider Radio Network, 94.5 FM and ESPN 960.
This is Cougar Sports with Ben Krettel on ESPN 960 and 94.5 FM. And it's time for the Cougar Beat. Getting the dish from the local reporters that cover BYU sports here on your Cougar Sports Insider Radio Network.
Yeah, buddy. Welcome back, Cougar Sports, ESPN 960. This is Cougar Country. I'm Ben Krettel, broadcasting live from our Wasatch Medical Clinic, WasatchMedicalClinic.com studios. It is time for a Cougar Beat, getting to know the perspective and advantage point of those that cover the team on the daily, on the weekly, on the monthly. It is always brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet in Provo, driven by you. We have a tailgating event, the ultimate Cougar Sports tailgating event. If you'd like to be a part of it, have a VIP parking spot, a VIP meal, a VIP drink for the Cougar tailgate. All you got to do is go to 2125 North University Parkway and test drive a vehicle on the lot, and that's what you're going to get hooked up with. I believe they're also giving out Megaplex movie tickets. So if you'd like gift certificates to the Megaplex movies, then get yourself into one of those vehicles today and test drive it today down there at Larry H. Miller Chevrolet in Provo, always driven by you. And you're going to get a free parking spot, too, at our tailgate. It's a nice little deal. Brian Logan's going to be there. We'll have all sorts of vendors. It should be a grand old time. Let's get out to the Larry H. Miller. We just changed it up. Larry H. Miller Chevrolet Provo phone line. And welcome in Robbie McCombs of Vanquish the Foe to talk BYU basketball to the Big 12 and conference and non-conference scheduling. Robbie, how you living?
Ben, doing great. Life's good right now in BYU sports. I mean, how can we not be happy?
Man,
It's a beautiful time.
You said the second coming was on the horizon after a BYU to the Big 12 invite and a W over the University of Utah. What's the next thing? Is it just another W over ASU? Is this a crescendo? Is this what's the next successful step for this BYU athletic department?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, it continues this season. I mean, if BYU beats Arizona State, I mean, the schedule opens up because I think the next 2 weeks, USF's not very good. You'd hope BYU takes care of business after that versus Utah State. Baylor on the road's a tough test. It seems like Jeff Grimes is doing things there. Wazoo's kind of down, and then you got Boise State, Virginia. So I don't think BYU's gonna run the table by any means, but I think Arizona State might be the toughest team left.
Yep.
On BYU's schedule, if BYU goes 11-1, I think NY6 season is in play. I mean, why not think about that? I mean, we already got the Big 12. We already beat Utah. I mean, why not go for the next thing? I mean, let's keep it going.
I was chatting with a college football coach recently, and he said jokingly, he's like, "Man, with all the momentum you guys have right now, you guys shooting for a natty this year?" I was like, whoa. No, man. We want Bama signs will not be showing up in Provo. Maybe they will, but I don't think I don't know if this year. But, I do think you're right. I made that declaration earlier, too. I was like, I think ASU may be the best team on BYU's schedule. Give me your reasoning why.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback who he's going to play. I mean, USC with Clay Helton being fired, I mean, who knows what they're going to look like. I mean, Keaton Slovis is good, and he's probably a better pro prospect than Daniels, but I think Daniels is a better college quarterback. So, I mean, USC's in turmoil. I mean, what's their motivation going to be like the last game of the year? Like, if they're out of the Pac-12 race, if they're 6-5, if they're just waiting on their next coach, like, how are they going to be excited at all for BYU? And on the flip side, if they did win the Pac-12, you know, they'll probably be looking forward to the Pac-12 title game. So, I mean, obviously they got the talent. They got more talent than BYU. But, I mean, we saw BYU beat them 2 years ago in Provo with Zach Wilson, who had a hurt shoulder, and Tyson Williams. I mean, that was a great game. I mean, Arizona State, they got a really good secondary too. But I mean, Jaden Daniels is going to be it's going to be a huge test for BYU with his legs. I mean, he's got a really good arm too. So I mean, they're favored for a reason, despite BYU coming off the big winner versus Utah. They're a 3.5 point favorite, which means if it was a neutral site game, Arizona State would probably be favored by close to a touchdown, and if it was in Tempe, that probably means Arizona State be favored by 7 to 9 points. So, I mean, they're really good. They're veteran. It seems like they had the off-season stuff they have going on, but they've responded to the first 2 games just fine. So, I mean, who knows? I think BYU, you hope they're focused. After Utah, coach is going to be preaching it this week. But even if they are focused, I mean, Arizona State's a really, really quality ball team.
Yeah, they're a good football team, no doubt. I do think Virginia, they looked pretty gosh dang good last week. They look like a good football team as well. Yeah, they dominated. Mm-hmm. It was not even close.
Yeah, and Bronco, I mean, both those BYU State and Virginia stuff, they're going to be so motivated to beat each other.
Oh,
I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, BYU's going to want Virginia's been stealing some of BYU's recruits in their backyard lane with the McKenzie twins and with Andrew Gentry last year. So BYU's going to be motivated for that reason. Bronco, he wasn't fired. I mean, he left to Virginia, but I think he was feeling pressure from BYU fans that kind of feel like he hit his ceiling. And those coaches there, they're going to want to go into pro and be like, hey, we're still the best LDS staff. If you want to play for the best LDS staff, come to Virginia. So, I mean, yeah, that's gonna be a tough thing. Virginia's looking good. I don't think they're quite as talented as Arizona State or USC, but they're gonna have all the motivation. Those coaches have all the motivation in the world to beat BYU.
Robbie McCombs, VanquishTheFoe.com here on ESPN 960. Robbie, let's talk BYU basketball to the Big 12. One of the questions we have is how it impacts BYU basketball specifically. You penned a piece at VanquishTheFoe.com. Break it down for us, if you will. How does this impact BYU basketball specifically?
Yeah, I wrote a piece a few days ago on published last Friday after the news officially came out. I see a few main reasons how this will impact BYU. So first, scheduling wise and strength of schedule, Big 12 top 2 basketball conference, arguably number 1. Coaches are saying that, and it probably is by all metrics. Ken Palm, the last decade, it's been the best basketball conference.
Yep.
You got it's headlined by Kansas. There's a top 3 or 4 program with Duke. You think Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas. I mean, those are the top 4 college basketball programs. Baylor just won a national championship there. And then, every team is good in there. I mean, you got West Virginia goes to Sweet 16s every year. Texas Tech went to the national title game 2 years ago. Iowa State, they went down a little bit, but they're traditionally a good program. Kansas State, they were the bottom, but even 2 years ago, they went to the Elite Eight. Oklahoma State just had Cade Cunningham, who went number 1 in the NBA draft. I mean, those are some good teams. I mean, even the bottom team, TCU, they went to the tournament a few years ago. They got a good coach in Jamie Dixon. I mean, even having TCU in the Marriott Center would be fun. I mean, I think BYU fans would get more hype for that than seeing Portland or LMU on a Thursday night come in. So, every week's going to be good. I was looking traditionally BYU. They probably get about 7 or 8 quad 1 opportunities a year, and 3 of those come from Gonzaga. The Big 12 alone, they're going to have 16 quad 1 games. So, BYU's if you factor in the non-conference schedule, BYU's probably have 20 quad 1 games a year, which is just nuts. Usually it's 8 to 10 a year, so those are going to double. BYU's not going to it's so hard for BYU to schedule non-conference. I was talking to someone, BYU coaches, they were offering teams 3-for-1s. They would play at their place 3 times, and they just want the team to come once to Provo or even just to Salt Lake, and they can't even, they're having a hard time getting even those. Like, that's going to wipe those. Like, you're going to have Kansas, Baylor, all these teams in the Marriott Center pretty much every year. And then your non-conference schedule, you could get Utah, you'll get a good tournament, and then maybe one other team. I mean, so scheduling is going to be so much better. I mean, just think about it. Every week's going to have a good matchup. Like, I mean, I love, I'm a big college, I'm a BYU basketball fan. Like, I get hyped up for the Portland matchups. And I know most BYU fans probably don't. But, I mean, every week you're going to have at least like a Baylor, you have a Kansas, you have a West Virginia, you have an Oklahoma State on ESPN. Like, it's going to be so fun. Like, the Marriott Center, that was another thing. The Marriott Center, I mean, BYU already leads the West in college basketball attendance with West Coast Conference schedule. I mean, I graduated from BYU about 6 years ago when I was a student. I remember on a Thursday night, BYU students were camping out for Pepperdine on a Thursday. I mean, every week I think it's going to be close to a sellout or a sellout in the Marriott. I think the Marriott Center is going to be a legitimate top 10 college basketball arena. I mean, you got the schedule's going to get better. You got the second thing, the Marriott Center I think is going to get good. And I'm thinking about recruiting. I think BYU's recruited just fine not being the power conference. Dave Rose, he brought in the Lone Peak 3. He brought in Yoli Child. So BYU's already getting high talent. Mark Pope's already brought in, he brought in Matt Harms over Kentucky and Texas Tech, as BYU's a member of the WCC. I think the Big 12 is only going to elevate that. I was talking to people close to BYU's program. They think guys they in the past that they didn't get. One guy that comes to mind is Matty Sissoko. Matty Sissoko is a really good big man. Mm-hmm. Yep, he was a really good big man at Michigan State. Mark Pope flew to Africa to visit with his family. And Matty Sissoko, he ended up going to Michigan State. I think BYU and Michigan State were the top two. I think BYU was in the Big 12. He would have gone to BYU just with that power conference. So, I mean, I think it's going to have a big impact on Wasatch Academy. I think there's going to probably be one guy every few years, a 4- or 5-star guy BYU gets that they normally wouldn't get. So I think I'm really excited about that. And one thing that we could see right away, like tonight, coaches are visiting. They're going to Colin Chandler's house to visit him. Colin Chandler, he's from Farmington, top 50 recruit, totally blown up this recruiting cycle. I think BYU's behind the 8 ball a little bit. Colin Chandler grew up in a big Utah family, so Utah's there. He really likes Stanford and their academics. I think those are kind of the two schools to beat. But, Mark Pope's going to go in that house tonight and say, hey, because Colin Chandler's going to go on a mission. So as soon as Colin Chandler gets home from his mission, that's going to be BYU's first season in the Big 12. He's not going to have to play in the WCC. So BYU could pitch him hey, when you get right home from your mission, you're going to play in the best basketball conference in America. So I mean, Coach Pope, he's already we see his energy; it's infectious. I mean, and just give him the Big 12 on top of that. I think, it's going to be huge. And speaking of Pope, I know we've talked about it before, but I think if BYU doesn't have the Big 12, I think, if BYU doesn't have the Big 12 in the future, if BYU went to the Sweet 16 this year, I think Pope would be gone. He'd go after a bigger opportunity because Pope wants to be on the biggest stage. I mean, now that BYU is going to go to the Big 12, he has the biggest stage. He has everything he needs. I think the only caveat, if Kentucky ever called, he'd go to Kentucky. But really, outside of that, there's no reason for him to go to Arizona. There's no reason for him to sniff around these other schools. BYU could pay him, and BYU could compete at the highest level. So I think that's huge from that aspect because if you're a big believer in Mark Pope, and I'm a big believer in him, I think he could take BYU basketball to new heights. You get to keep him around. So I think those are the 4 main reasons. Scheduling's going to get better. Marriott Center atmosphere is going to go up a notch. Recruiting, and then just keeping Mark Pope around. I think those are really the 4 big impacts we'll see fairly quickly as soon as BYU officially joins the Big 12 here in 2 years.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. It's going to be impactful, no doubt. I wonder. I was chatting with a few individuals recently that are in the prep school scene, and I was asking their thoughts on recruiting and how this impacts. And they said, I think it's going to still be tough to get that long, athletic dude that's not LDS to come to BYU for 4 or 5 years. They don't think they're going to get that guy. It's just that they think honor code and admissions and other things, it's just going to be difficult because BYU is a unique place. Okay, we all know this. It's a great place, but it's a unique place. They don't think that's where it's going to be impactful. They think the transfer portal, though, is going to be even more lively now at BYU because they can be one-and-done business trip and go. Matt Harms came onto our show and said, hey, I love my time at BYU, but it was tough. It was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. It's tough. It's not for everybody. We know this, right? It's not for everybody. One-and-dones can have a fantastic experience at BYU, though, and I think that's where it's going to be most impactful. Your thoughts?
No, I totally agree. I mean, BYU is not going to get a 5-star kid.
This is Peacock.
I love it!
It's streaming your favorite shows, movies, live sports, breaking news, exclusive originals. It's The Office.
That's what she said.
Chrisley Knows Best.
It's gonna be Todd's Way or the Highway.
And Peacock original shows like Punky Brewster.
Holy macanoli.
So whether you're in the mood for every live WWE pay-per-view or every episode of Law & Order SVU, Peacock's got you covered. Peacock. Watch for free, upgrade for more. Stream now at peacocktv.com.
Life gets more magical when you dream. So dream of a Disney cruise filled with magic and wonder.
Hiya, pal!
Sail from Florida to Disney's private island paradise and get ready for a dream come true with Disney Cruise Line.
I mean, just the honor code. I mean, they're not. I mean, a kid, they want to go to school. If they have a girlfriend, they're going to want to sleep with their girlfriend. I mean, that's just like kids. I mean, you've been pitching that for 4 years. It's going to be tough for BYU. I mean, being in the Big 12 is not going to change that. But I totally agree. Getting a kid for 1 to 2 years, that's a little bit more mature. It's like, hey, buckle down for a couple of years. You could really focus on basketball. I mean, that's the pitch right now is that Mark Pope's giving transfers. I mean, that's what he's telling them right now. Like, buckle down for 2 years, like, live the honor code. Like, you're just going to the gym every day. You can focus on basketball. And now on top of that, he could say, hey, like, come to 2 years and you're going to play in the Big 12 for 2 years. So it's just one more notch. Like, BYU's already living in the transfer portal. It just gives them additional ammo, I think, to even get the next level of player in the transfer portal. So I totally agree with that. I think high school kids, I think it'll help BYU with kind of like the high-end Utah kids. Like right now, Colin Chandler and Jackson Calder, they're the 2 4-star kids in Utah, 2022 guys. I think BYU's probably a little behind the 8 ball. Like if BYU had the Big 12 already, I think BYU would at least get one of them. I mean, who knows? Big 12 could change it for them. But in the future, I think it's going to help those types of high school kids. But I agree, the bigger impact, I think, is definitely going to be in the transfer portal for kids that just are coming to BYU for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Robbie McCombs here on ESPN 960 discussing BYU to the Big 12 in basketball. I think most feel that football will be more competitive initially. When will BYU basketball be able to compete at the level that BYU fans are like, hey, we're making it in the Big 12, right? And I don't know what that threshold is. I don't know if that's hovering around 500 in the Big 12. Like, I don't know where that's at, that winning percentage. But give me maybe a winning percentage and how long it'll take to get to that point in the Big 12.
Yeah, I guess it means what your definition is of competing. Like, if your definition is like getting to the NCAA tournament annually, I think BYU could do that pretty quick. Because, I mean, honestly, the Big 12 is probably going to go to a 20-game conference schedule, which is what most power conferences are doing right now. And it allows you to load up on those quad 1, quad 2 games. So I think traditionally, BYU is a program. BYU usually gets to the NCAA tournament. You could probably expect somewhere between like an 8 to 10 seed, 8 to 12 seed on any given year. I think BYU. So I think as far as getting to the NCAA tournament, I think this is going to help BYU. They could go 500 in conference, and they could still get a 7 seed. They could still get a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. So it's going to help BYU's NCAA tournament seeding immediately. As far as winning conference titles, I mean, that may not happen for 20 years. I mean, Kansas has owned the Big 12. I mean, Baylor finally won that last year, but before, Kansas had won the Big 12 14 years in a row. And that's with some really good basketball programs. I mean, you got Oklahoma in there, you had Texas in there, Kansas State in there, who had Michael Beasley, who used to be number 1 pick. So, I mean, BYU may never win the Big 12, like in basketball, honestly. I mean, and honestly, that's okay. Like, it's not in football. You need to win your conference more because that helps you get to an NY6 bowl. Like in basketball, like it's not as important. Like it helps, but it's really like just about seeding an NCAA tournament. So if BYU fans are expecting to compete for a Big 12 title right away, I mean, it's not going to happen. I think, and down the road, I think BYU could compete and like be a top 3-4 team in the Big 12. But initially, with 12 teams, if BYU is middle of the pack, that's great because that means BYU is going to be like a 5 to 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. So to answer your question, it's going to help right off the bat BYU to be competitive in getting an NCAA tournament. But I don't think they're going to be competitive winning a Big 12 conference championship. I mean, historically, BYU they're not the program of Kansas. They're not the caliber of Baylor right now who's winning national championships. I mean, I think that's the reality. I don't think that's a bad thing because the goal shouldn't be to that. The goal should be get a good seed in the tournament and then advance.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Robbie McCombs, ladies and gentlemen. Follow him on Twitter. Make sure you read all his stuff at Vanquish the Foe, vanquishthefoe.com. Any articles you can tease us before you let us go, before we let you go, Robbie, what are you working on?
There's a published article today just breaking down the non-conference schedule. I think it's really good. I think BYU is going to have the most quad 1, quad 2 opportunities they've had in years. I think they'll have chances of probably 10 quad 1, quad 2 games, which is almost double that they've had the first 2 years under Mark Pope. So just have that come out today. I'd encourage BYU fans to read that. I'm really excited about the non-conference schedule. And then, always there's some football stuff in the pipeline this week with Arizona State. It's a fun time, man. It's a good time, as you said, to be a BYU fan right now.
It is. It's a glorious time. Hopefully we can keep the momentum going. I had a little bit of a scare yesterday with the Clay Helton news. I was like, uh-oh, is Kalani going to get contacted? Do you think – are you more concerned about Mark Pope sticking around or Kalani Sitake, being able to stick around at BYU?
I think I'd still be more concerned about Mark Pope just because Kalani's such a BYU guy. I feel Kalani's more like a Lavelle. Mark Pope, I think he loves BYU, but he's not a BYU guy. He grew up in Seattle. He went to Washington. He didn't grow up as a BYU fan. He didn't have any interest going to BYU out of high school. So I think Mark Pope's much more likely to stick around than he was before the Big 12 announcement. But I think if I had to pick which one's going to leave first, it would be Mark Pope. Yeah.
Dang it, Mark. Hopefully Kentucky never comes. Hopefully Kentucky says, we're good, Mark. We appreciate you, man. But stay with the Brigham Young University. All right, appreciate you, Robbie. Thanks for hopping on today, bro.
Great, thanks, man. Good talking to you.
Great chatting with you. Always learn something from Robbie. We'll go to break. Coming up next, what's cooking with the Cougars? Don't miss it. This is your Cougar Sports Insider Radio Network, 94.5 FM and ESPN 960.
It's rush hour, and you're heading home after a long day. Now the question becomes, what are you going to pick up for dinner? Ben Criddle tells you what you should pick up and also gives you the latest news that's cooking with BYU Sports in What's Cooking with the Cougars here on ESPN 960.
Welcome back, Cougar Sports, ESPN 960. This is Cougar Country. I'm Ben Criddle, broadcasting live from our Wasatch Medical Clinic, wasatchmedicalclinic.com studios. Brian Logan by my side. It is time for What's Cooking with the Cougars, always brought to you by Moochie's, Meatballs.com. Get yourself something delicious, something delectable at Moochie's. They're open for dine-in, delivery, takeout, curbside. They have something for everybody on that menu. It's 558 along the Wasatch Front. Head on into one of the Moochie's Meatballs locations and get the award-winning food, the authentic East Coast-style sandwiches, the salads, the pasta, the Italian flair, always infused in the delicious sustenance of Moochie's Meatballs. Birch beer's always on tap, and tasty cakes for dessert. Get it in your mouth. You'll love it. Whether it's an authentic Philly cheesesteak, an atomic meatball sandwich, or the grilled veggie sandwich. As I mentioned, there's something for everybody on the menu. Mention ESPN 960. They're going to hook you up with a discount, as they always do. All right, let's get into some of the news and notes of the day. Always brought to you by Moochie's, Moochie'sMeatballs.com. So BYU yesterday entered the national ranking at number 23, coming off its victory over number 18/21 Utah on Saturday. BYU entered the national top 25 polls for the first time this season, receiving the number 23 ranking in both the USA Today coaches poll and the Associated Press top 25. The Cougars are off to a 2-0 start with back-to-back wins over Pac-12 schools, looking for that Pac-12 championship, right? Pac-12 South, Arizona, and Utah. BYU, which accepted the invitation on Friday to join the Big 12 Conference starting in 2023, was last ranked in the final polls last season, with the Cougars finished number 11 in both national rankings with an 11-1 record. Utah, after losing 26-17 to the Cougars on Saturday, dropped out of the top 25 along with Texas and the 2021 BYU opponent, USC. So some L's taken on BYU's roster. Miami also fell out of the coaches' rankings, but received a number 24 rating by the AP this week, down 2 slots. On Saturday, BYU will host yet another national-ranked opponent from the Pac-12 when number 19/21 Arizona State comes to LaVell Edwards Stadium. The Sun Devils are 2-0. They defeated UNLV in Tempe on Saturday to improve to 2-0 and moved up 4 spots in the polls, in both polls this week, earning a number 19 ranking by AP voters and the number 21 slot from the coaches' poll. Other teams entering this week's polls, along with BYU, were Arkansas, number 21 AP, number 24 coaches, Michigan, number 25 poll, both polls, and Auburn, number 20 in the coaches' poll. The Tigers were previously ranked last by the AP poll. So top 5 teams this week, according to AP, are Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, Oregon, and Iowa, while the USA Today coaches poll agreed on the same top 4 teams before voting Texas A&M at number 5. I'll tell you what, BYU's ranked right now because Jaron Hall, Bryce Larson. Jaron Hall played quite well versus the University of Utah, and he earned Davey O'Brien Award Grade 8 recognition. Tell me what happened.
Yeah, BYU sophomore Jaron Hall earned the national recognition. It was earlier this week, I believe it was Monday, as one of 8 quarterbacks named to the Davey O'Brien Awards Grade 8 list for his performance in Week 2 of the season. Hall went 18 of 30 for 149 yards and 3 touchdowns, while carrying the ball 8 times for 92 yards to lead the number 23 ranked BYU to a 26-17 win over in-state rival Utah. And it goes on to talk about just some of the other guys who are on the list as well, and then some of the former winners of the Davey O'Brien Award.
Yeah, 100% accurate. He deserves this. He has earned this. BYU quarterbacks have won the Davey O'Brien Award 4 times, second only to Oklahoma, who has won 5, in addition to winners Jim McMahon, Steve Young, back in 1983, Ty Detmer in 1990 and 1991. Robbie Bosco finished runner-up in 1984, and Steve Sarkisian finished 3rd in 1996. Beautiful, grand, wonderful. BYU football opponents news. Washington and Washington State will require proof of vaccination for COVID-19 for fans 12 years or older for home games beginning in October. Those not vaccinated will need to show proof of a negative COVID test within 72 hours of the event. The BYU Cougar football program is hey, you know what? You're afraid of the Brian? What are you saying? You don't?
I ain't saying nothing.
All right, just
I was just thinking in my head that I'm gonna have to figure out a way that to
get your vaccine card.
To get a vaccine card. I'm about to hit I'm about to hit the black market tonight.
Oh, you crazy man!
I just need somebody's card. And I just need to scan it, and then
He's lying. He's not really doing.
I'm not lying. The Bible says you should tell the truth, so I'm telling the truth right now.
Also, some other scheduling BYU football opponents news. As a reminder, BYU football will be playing Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, at Allegiant Stadium, the home of the Las Vegas Raiders, in 2022 before moving on to the Big 12, according to the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Mark Anderson reported the news about a week or so ago. Brigham Young will play Notre Dame at Allegiant Stadium in October 2022 as part of the Shamrock Series. A source with knowledge of the discussion said they're going to be playing either on October 8th or 29th. So book it, get your hotels booked, and make sure you can cancel it, I guess. But October 8th and or the 29th. Maybe there's some flexibility there. We got some recruiting news, I believe, today as well. Bryce, tell us a little bit about the wide receiver that committed last week, and then I'll tell you about the new commit for the Cougars along the defensive line. Yeah,
BYU football added former Air Force commit Parker Kingston to the 2022 recruiting class. Kingston currently plays quarterback at Roy High School. So far this season, he's passed for 267 yards and rushed for 353. Kingston now brings BYU's 2022 class to a total of 14 commits.
It's actually 15 now with the last
That's right,
one.
Yep. And then he's also a member of an elite 7-on-7 Utah high school squad called Team Paula. They travel around the country, and Kingston has shown well on the 7-on-7 circuit with American Forks quarterback Maddox Madsen playing quarterback there for that 7-on-7 squad.
It's a good squad. It's a fantastic squad, no doubt about it. Also, Talon Togiai tweeted out earlier today, after thinking long and hard, I decided to commit to BYU. Thanks to Coach Funk and Kalani Sitake for this amazing opportunity. You wonder if he's going to play defensive or offensive line for the Cougars. He may be playing offensive line for the Cougars. The 3-star talent. He's got offers from BYU, Nebraska, and Utah. 3 Power 5 offers. That's what he's got. He's 6'6", 290 pounds, out of Rigby, Idaho, and a 5A state champion. So I like this guy a lot. He's got some swagger to him. I'm a big fan. I'm going to post a picture of him. He's got these like 1980s throwback killer loop type of sunglasses that he's ripping. Look at that. Is that swagger or what? B-Lo, tell me how you feel about this. Right there. Boom. How you feeling about that? Swagger?
No.
Swagger.
Yeah.
Swagger.
Yes.
Talon Togiai, welcome.
How big is he?
Welcome home, Talon. 6'6", 290.
Most people that big don't have swag like that. So
No, they do not.
Not at all. No, not even like the slightest bit.
Swagger.
Not even the slightest bit.
I'm gonna post a picture of him. He's got swagger, guys. He's got some goodness to him on the football field as well. So that's Talon Togiai. What's some basketball news? What do you got for us on the basketball front, Bryce Larson?
BYU men's basketball released its full men's basketball schedule on Tuesday. The WCC schedule had been released previously. 16 non-conference games are now also on the schedule. BYU opens up at home on November 4th with an exhibition game against Colorado Christian. The first regular season game is November 9th against Cleveland State. The Cougars also face San Diego State, Oregon, Utah, Utah State, Creighton, and others before competing at the Diamond Head Classic from December 22nd to the 25th. Personally, I think the most exciting game on that schedule for me, I'm going to go with Oregon. I think Oregon's going to be a great one. And then at Creighton in South Dakota, that could be surprisingly, that could be a good game as well.
Yep. 100% agree. What a non-conference schedule. Colorado Christian, Cleveland State, San Diego State, Oregon at the Phil Knight Invitational, Central Methodist, Texas Southern, Utah, Utah Valley, Missouri State, Utah State, Creighton in South Dakota, Weber State, South Florida at the Diamond Head Classic, Vanderbilt, Hawaii at the Diamond Head Classic, and then maybe a to-be-determined in the championship game, right? Westminster on December 29th. And then you get into West Coast Conference schedule starting at Portland. Nice little introduction into the West Coast Conference, then versus Pacific at home. So that's some basketball news. Women's soccer news. Over the weekend, BYU defeated Missouri 7-4 in an offensive-packed matchup. The number 22 Cougars defeated them on Saturday night. Goal-packed match. Congratulations to the Lady Cougs on the pitch. And BYU does host Idaho State on Thursday at South Field. Number 18 BYU women's soccer are set to host Idaho State Thursday, September 16th at Southfield. Buy your tickets at BYUtickets.com. The Thursday's matchup is scheduled for 7 p.m. Mountain Time on BYUtv.org and the BYU TV app. The game will also be carried live on the BYU Sports Network, BYU Radio 107.9 FM, and the BYU Cougars app. So congratulations and good luck. The Idaho State team is 0-7, so they should come out victorious. What do you got for women's volleyball, brother?
Number 15, BYU faces in-state rivals number 10 Utah and UVU this week. Back from winning 2 of 3 matches in Pittsburgh, number 15 BYU prepares to face on 2 in-state rivals this week, number 10 University of Utah and Utah Valley University on the 16th and the 18th. On Thursday, the Cougars will host the Utes in the Smith Fieldhouse. BYU holds a 73-29 all-time record over Utah. However, when the teams most recently met in December of 2019, Utah took the victory at home. On Saturday in the Lockhart Arena, the Wolverines will host the Cougars. BYU has never lost to UVU, holding a 17-0 record. Most recently, so BYU, they played in Pittsburgh. They lost to Pittsburgh. They're ranked number 4 in the nation. So not a bad loss, as some would say, especially in college football. But the Cougars are looking to turn it back around against Utah this week.
Yeah, nice breakdown. The in-state rivalry. You're next, right? Women's volleyball. You got to show up and show out. Real quick, there was a fan question that came in recently from Timothy Gervais. Timothy, big hooker to you. I want you to answer this question for me, Brian. He had this debate over the water cooler at work and wanted your take on it. I'll also chime in. In a hypothetical world where BYU could sign every LDS athlete they wanted and never lost an LDS recruiting battle, how much better would BYU be in football? A part of me believes the reason BYU was so good in yesteryear was because they didn't lose out on many of the LDS athletes, because there was an element of religious expectation to playing for the Y that most church members recognize, even supported. Nowadays, so much effort has been spent by certain elements of the church to downplay the religious element of where you play your football, that many of the best LDS athletes no longer view their religious affiliation as a real determinant in their decision. It seems to me if we could recultivate in an appropriate way a connection between playing for BYU and representing the church, we might land a few more of those high-end LDS recruits, and then on the field, the on-field results would improve. So your take on this. In a hypothetical world where BYU could sign every LDS athlete they wanted and never lost an LDS recruiting battle, how much better would BYU football be? You're talking about like Kingsley Suamataia, who's now at Oregon. You're talking about Jackson Powers Light, who's now at Oregon along the offensive line. You're talking about Brandon Cajo, who went to Alabama. You're talking about Tanner McKee, who went to Stanford, right? Like, there's a lot of great players that have gone elsewhere that could have helped BYU win football games. There's no doubt about it. There's a ton of Utah football players as well. Mm-hmm. So the high end, how many more wins do you get, and how high? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I think a lot. I mean, obviously it's dramatically.
I mean, Puka going to Washington initially. Yeah. Samson going to Utah.
This is the thing, though. Not every LDS player. Okay, so aside from what you said earlier, right? Like, there's certain LDS players that are born and raised in certain regions.
Sure.
And they're going to be
Derek Brown. I mean, he mentioned Guy Holiday mentioned Derek Brown, who grew up in the Southeastern Conference.
You can't compete with that.
It's hard to compete.
You're not going to compete. Come on, man. Like, you're just not going to be able to compete with that at all.
Hey, don't give up so quickly.
No, I'm just being realistic. Like, I remember certain players that would have all these big-time offers, and that they were LDS, weren't from Utah, and then chose to come to BYU. And in my head, I'm like, what in the world are you doing here? Like, why? I'm confused. You know what I mean? And that's where I think that the church element, trumps any type of regional, demographics, right? Like where they were born and raised. Mm-hmm. However, I also want to say this too: not every kid that's LDS, that's not that wasn't raised or isn't raised in Utah has the same morals and values.
They don't.
You know what I'm saying?
There's not every there's a lot of non-LDS guys that have better.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say better.
I would say better.
No,
not better.
They follow
those certain moral values.
Exactly. With me, I would say me, guys like Corby. A lot of us, you could have a list, right? Where we really focus on living those values that the church teaches more than others. And so it's not necessarily a thing of like the title of LDS is associated with the kid's name or not. That would help like recruiting. Honestly, it's the honor code.
It's the honor code.
Yeah. So I would say if you remove the honor code, I guarantee you get 80% of those kids.
Yeah, because
80%.
Well, I think if you could create an honor code, the honor code and academic repercussions, right? So you do need to. I hate to say I'm not saying lower the standard. I am saying lower admission standards, and then create a general studies curriculum. So like the 3.5 GPA kid and a 24 ACT. I guess the football player that's a 3.0 or 2.9 that has a 19 ACT, you got to be able to get him in and also set him up for success, which means to me you change the curriculum a little bit. I would like to see, and I know you feel me on this, and I know you have your specialty and what you got your degree in, but I think there needs to be a general studies degree at BYU, and I call it the Adulting 101. Personal finance is a class that you should probably take at least twice. Like Personal Finance 101 and 102 should be required in general studies. I do think like a home ec class is more important than philosophies of men, cultural, sociology, all these things that you talk about that are more ethereal in my mind, and like even like history. I love history, and you can learn a lot from history, but you need to start creating adults in our educational system, which means skill sets that they utilize every single day. And when I talk about personal finance, understanding how credit works, how to take out a loan, how interest works, how to invest in real estate, investment classes. Like these are adulting 101 classes that you should be graded upon and trained upon. And I do think like home ec, like understanding, give me a mechanics shop. Understanding how to change a tire and how to change your oil and how things work in the world day in and day out. Like, give me a general studies degree that will set up a young man, a young woman up for success just to enter into the workforce and be able to take care of themselves. Because most people, like we see it all the time, people are complaining about their student debt, student loans, and they can't get jobs right now because they don't have a skill set to actually – make a difference, make an impact. So, like, I think there's individual development, and then I think within that general studies, you need to focus on basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. Seriously, reading, it's so basic to me, reading and writing arithmetic, because you're going to have to communicate. You're going to have to maybe sell. You're going to have to create copy. You're going to have to communicate with your coworkers consistently. And if you have a hardworking individual that can problem solve and has basic reading, writing, arithmetic, problem-solving ability, and they're willing to work hard, guys, you can get a lot of jobs out there in the world.
Currently, right now, with what you just said, you would be like top in your in the pool.
100%.
Like literally, I'm telling you, like it's crazy the amount of jobs that are available right now, especially specifically in Utah. And I hear my clients and recruiters, specifically like the last 6 months, they're just like, we just can't, like, for what we need right now and like with our business and how our business is trying to keep up with today's modern landscape and market changes and consumer behavior. We can't find the appropriate person. Like, everybody's qualified, they have these degrees, and even with the experience, we still can't find somebody to do these types of jobs. So you're 100% correct. And that was a big thing.
That's what you're going to need to do to get the guys that you really want. It's changing the honor code and the repercussions of honor code and how you handle the honor code issues, etc. I don't want to completely get rid of the honor code. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying how you handle honor code violations, etc., and then also the academic elements as well.
We can do that. We can do that right now. I mean, so when I knew that I wasn't going to college, I didn't even think I was going to play football after my senior year. So I dropped all of my hard classes, like literally. Like, I dropped them all. Like, chemistry, I think algebra 2. I dropped all that. And what I replaced it with? Business math, which is exactly what you were talking about. I had a budget, and I had to learn how to, budget food for the whole semester. Dude, I'm telling you, I remember, and this is no disrespect to, my ex lady, but I was sitting there writing checks like, this is how you do this. And I took cooking, and then I took mechanics. So I literally learned how cars work, engines, the basic stuff that you're talking about. Look, check this out, man. I was, even to this day, I'm like, no, this is how you wash clothes. You put the colors, you do this, all that stuff that you're talking about. I mean, like, literally how to sew in him, like, the basic things that you'll need to learn every single day is way more valuable than learning, like, angles and geometry. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have not one time, outside of football, had to really think back, like, this angle. You know what I mean? Like, and to where it helped me in my personal life. Like, none of that stuff really applies. It's no application in the real world for it. And I think you're right. If you can show kids, like, the journey, the steps, and a roadmap to, going through the time during the program, and then what does life look outside of that, that's going to be more intriguing for the player as well as the parents to have more of an influence on that decision, right? And so if it's head to head with a team that it looks like BYU should lose when it comes to the recruiting battle, but BYU can show that slight edge, I'm there. That's the decision maker right there.
Yes, indeed. Bryce, you want to chime in on this? What do you think? If BYU were to get all the LDS athletes, all the best LDS athletes in their recruiting battles, how would that change BYU football?
I think it would change drastically. I mean, you look at like Nephi Sewell and his brother as well, and then you also have there's tons of athletes that go. Yeah, Mace Funa as well. Those guys are at Oregon, Utah. I mean, those are high priority guys that BYU's missed out on, and I think it would make a world of a difference just talent-wise if BYU could get all of those guys.
Yeah, I think it's look, I mean, Tom Holmoe stated it. Kalani's talked about it. Kalani addressed it as well. In the Big 12 News press conference, he said, hopefully we can get some of the guys. I think we'll be able to compete and get some of the guys that we've missed out on in the past, the LDS recruits essentially that are very aware of BYU, the standards that it holds. They've been born and raised essentially, or at least understand the standard for, I guess, morality that you must live by at BYU, that we choose to live by. I think that it would drastically change BYU. Like I said, Tanner McKee just threw for 2 touchdowns and over 200 yards and was extremely efficient, really good quarterback. I wouldn't say he's going to start over Jared Hall. Maybe Tanner McKee was more of a Ty Detmer pro-style quarterback, and Aaron Roderick likes those dual-threat guys. But, guys like Derek Brown, who I believe is LDS, and Guy Holiday talked about getting him. Can you get him? Maybe. Brandon Cajo, another one.
Another guy that comes to mind is Mason Cobb. I'm not sure if he's LDS, but he's out of Provo High School.
Yeah, he's not LDS, but he's right
Provo
there in the
High
heart.
School, yeah. He went to Oklahoma State. So.
He was never recruited. They didn't like him for whatever reason. They thought he was too short. Yeah, but he's a really good football player.
Yeah, he's making plays.
They're looking for Peyton
Wilgar. Right,
they're looking for if you want those guys, like, you have to win. I'm not saying you can't win, or that you can just like get by just going to bowl games in the Big 12. The most important thing to get those guys is create NFL talent. You want Derek Brown, become a defensive line NFL developer. That's what
at the end of the day,
a linebacker. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you got to do. And granted, you could come back at me and say, well, Brandon Cajo went to Washington and then Alabama.
Okay, check this out. If Alabama had an honor code right now,
no, they wouldn't be going there.
You don't think so?
I don't know, man.
I think, dude, what?
I don't know.
Think about what?
I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would.
I think so, man. That's a good question. We should ask, other former players. I may just be different because I didn't have a problem with the honor code now. But I'm just thinking, like, I'm putting myself in these kids' shoes, and even during recruiting, like, everybody thinks they're going to the league. Everybody wants to go to the league. Alabama gives you your best chance to go to the league, right? Like, overall statement, right? So if somebody says, look, 80% of our starters over the last 10 years under Nick Saban has, got drafted to the NFL. And so in order to make that happen, that for you to have that opportunity, you have to live the honor code 4 years. That makes sense to me. When I look at, like, when I weigh the options, that makes sense to me, man. Like, it just does. So to me, at the end of the day, I want to go to the place that is going to set me up for success when it comes to furthering my career. That's very simple. It's very simple. Mm-hmm. So going back to what you're saying, like, if BYU can show that, they're going to have more kids that are intrigued because, like, you can get me to the league, shoot, and I just got to be clean for 4 years. Let's go. Mm-hmm. But how can I, like, where's my proof? Where's my evidence? Mm-hmm. How could I feel secure and confident that you will get me there? Because this is a hell of a sacrifice. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure most kids would make that sacrifice.
Yeah, I think there's a strong argument for it. My guy KN just texted me. Some of these kids that they're calling LDS, I don't think want to come to BYU. I think that's what BYU has to. That's why BYU has to get 100%. All of the missionaries, that would be way different. So guys that are willing to go and serve missions, that's who you really get. And I don't know. I mean, that's interesting.
Okay.
You know, it's like, the kids that don't go on missions, are they not willing to live the honor code? I think there's plenty of guys that could live the honor code, but I get what he's saying.
That's a good point. That's a great point, though, there.
Yeah, it is.
Because that makes from a targeting perspective, like that is more ideal, right? Like every school should have like their ideal recruit, like their ideal player, right? And like the more ideal, well, maybe a kid going on a mission probably isn't ideal, right, for a coach and for a program. But as far as the probability of landing that kid, that means I would say that from the ideal criteria, like you would say that, is this a mission kid, which means we have a higher chance of getting them, most likely. I would assume so. And specifically because that kid going to Stanford or wherever, that may be really like an uncomfortable situation or conversation to have with your coaches and your players. You know what I mean? Like if I'm at Cal and somebody goes on their mission and comes back, like we both go in freshman year, he comes back and he's still like he's a redshirt freshman and I'm a junior. I'm like that might be a little awkward. Obviously with BYU, it's like, yay, welcome back. Hey, I got some apple juice and some chocolate milk for celebration. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think just from a culture standpoint, it'd be much easier for that kid, to come to BYU versus somewhere else.
Yeah. It's interesting, and we can continue to debate it, and I appreciate the fan interaction. Got to give a big Cougar roar to the fans that interact with us on the daily. Timothy Gervais, big Cougar roar to you. My final thoughts is, it would change the trajectory of BYU football, and you'd get a whole lot more W's, 100%. And I think you can compete at an elite level if you got all the best LDS athletes to come to BYU. Will that happen? I don't know if it's ever going to happen where you're getting the top of the line LDS athletes
when the honor code is gone.
Well,
sorry, I said that out loud.
No, you wondered. So I'll say this: just like the transfer portal will benefit basketball, the transfer portal will continue to benefit BYU football as well. But you need to get programs in place academically if you're going to bring in grad transfers, because they never graduate from their graduate degree.
Right.
So, like, you're never going to get that, and then that hurts the graduate program. So they don't want that. So we got to figure out something there. You got to talk to Upper Campus, and Kevin Worthen has to step in, and Keith Vorkink has to step in, and you have to build relationships and figure it out. That's why I say you got to have some sort of like dumbed down curriculum. And I hate to say it, but guys, it is very difficult. Like, I just don't think people realize it's so hard to compete in football at the highest of levels while also competing at the highest of levels in the classroom. You just can't do it. Mm-mm. That's why you can't do it. You got to choose. You got to choose. You got to choose. Like, I'm sorry. Like, the nerdification of Brigham Young University is what it is. I'm not saying don't have a high standard for certain students. I'm not for the other students, but like, we have to create a more generalized educational curriculum and also find a way to get some of those grad transfers to get into a program that isn't so devastated by the prestige, right, of losing guys and losing students when they don't graduate. Because I can go down the list. I think Kean Norman is like the only guy that graduated probably from his MPA program, like from Southern Utah. All the other transfers, like, I don't know if Dylan Colley finished his. I know Tyson didn't. I don't think Jordan Leslie did. Maybe Keanu Nelson did. You remember Keanu from Stanford? Maybe he did.
I'm
it's hit and miss.
I'm not.
It's hit and miss. So I'm just saying, like, it's going to be tough. It's still going to be tough. Anyway, we can go on for days. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you download the podcast, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iTunes, all the platforms, and give us a rating, give us a review. We appreciate it. Please support our sponsors. Can't do our show without our sponsors. From all of us here at ESPN 960, have a good night, have a safe night. You've been listening to Cougar Sports on 94.5 FM and ESPN 960.
Fall is a season of gathering that brings us together with warmth and color. So whether it's a birthday, anniversary, or a special event, celebrate your friends and family with a gorgeous bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers makes it easy to find your reason and brighten someone's day with exclusive offers and great values on bouquets and arrangements. To order today, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in.
Life gets more magical when you dream. So dream of a Disney cruise filled with magic and wonder.
Hiya, pal!
Sail from Florida to Disney's private island paradise and get ready for a dream come true with Disney Cruise Line.